everyone. My name is Christina Liu. Now, I want a show of hands for this very difficult question. What color is this? Oh, close. Okay. Okay. Now, I want hands raised for the next one, so I can call on you. What color is this? Let me see if I can. Yeah, you over there, the glasses and the pink. All right, close. More. Magenta. All right, that's good. Now, show of hands, so I can call on you. What color is this? Is anyone upstairs raising their hands? Nope. No? Whatever. You over there. Fuchsia. All right, close, close. So these are all a shade of red. So on the count of 3, what do you think we're going to talk about today? 1, 2, 3. We're going to talk about bugs. It'll make sense, I promise. So the specific bug that we are going to talk about is called a cochineal. So they, in the native Nahuatl language, are called nochicli, which means blood of the prickly pear cactus. And that is because their crushed up little bug bodies make this shade of red. The prickly pear cactus are also called nopal or nopalis. The red is specifically from carminic acid, which the little bugs use to deter predators from eating it. Now, the indigenous folks have been using this shade of art. Oh, yeah, it is art. They've been using this shade of red for a very long time for paint, for cosmetics, for dye. So if you look at this one over here, that's actually a textile fragment from Peru from the 4th to 6th century. Now, so we know what happened in Mexico, Spanish conquistadors. I know. So basically, the conquistadors, the Spanish, got a hold of the cochineal and started exporting it to Spain, which then proliferated out and exported out to the rest of Europe. And it's a very, very popular color there for them to use as cosmetics, dyes, and the artists are like, oh my God. So this is an example of the carmine paint, which is made from cochineal. This is Caravaggio's The Musicians. The crimson fabric that you see on the lute player is made from cochineal. Now, the artists go nuts for this. Like almost every painter uses it. They had, like from Titian to Vermeer to Rembrandt. Cochineal is the greatest export from Mexico after silver. Yeah, so royalty use it for their clothing. Clergy use it. So at the time, if you see red cardinal robes from that time, it is cochineal. People use it for their makeup, all sorts of things. Now, Spain has a 300-year monopoly over cochineal. And the reason why they were able to keep this monopoly is from 2 things. There's a big secrecy around cochineal. One, it had a very misleading name. They called it grana fina, which translates to fine seeds, when these are actually dried bugs. The other reason why is because if you try to get cochineal out of Mexico, the punishment for that is very, very slow death through a whole lot of torture. So they had a vested interest in keeping the secret of that. So for a long time, most people in Europe thought it was seeds, except for this guy, Nicolas Joseph Thierry de Menonville, who was a French botanist. Thank you. So Menonville knew it was bugs and not seeds. And he figured, and he knew it was bugs because in Europe, there is a little red pigment-producing bug called kermes that is native to that area. And that bug was known about since like the 1600s. Also, In 1725, Sir Hans Sloane actually publishes a book called Voyage to Jamaica, and it has lots of illustrations. In that book is this illustration that specifically talks about the propagation and harvest of cochineal from cactus in Oaxaca. This is another illustration from the book. It is a life-size illustration of the cochineal. So Menonville, knowing this, goes to King Louis XVI in 1776, and he's like, yo, so I'm paraphrasing, can I covertly go to Mexico to try to figure out how to bring back the secrets of the trade and start like a French carmine industry? And the king was like, sure, but like it's covert, so I can't give you, resources and things. And Menonville was like, that's fine, it's fine. So he goes with the blessing of the king, and so he starts in France, gets on a ship, maps and ships, and heads to Saint-Domingue, which was a French colony at the time. Saint-Domingue is now what is Haiti. From Haiti, he hops over to Havana, Cuba, and then from Cuba, he hops over to Veracruz, Mexico. And in Saint-Domingue, it was important that he goes to Saint-Domingue first because he had to get a passport that identified him as a botanist and a doctor. The doctor was the cover. So while in Veracruz, he basically wakes up every single day at 4:30 in the morning to walk around to do botanical research and look at plants, look at rocks, look at terrain. He also ends up treating hangovers of soldiers as a cover. So they'd go up to him, and his treatment for hangover was stop drinking for 3 days and see if you feel better. Science! So all this time he's working on trying to get a passport to get out of Veracruz to go deeper into Mexico, but he gets denied. So what does he do? The next day, he wakes up at 3 in the morning and just walks and tries to walk to Oaxaca, which is 280 miles away, and he doesn't know where he's going. So basically, he hires guides. He hires horse. I don't know what they're called. You hire horses. He hires mules and gets people to show him the way because he's going through rough terrain. He's doing river crossings 70 times. He runs into heat. He runs into vampire bats. He's shook about that. The biggest danger to him was actually the Spanish guard towers that are positioned along the road because he has to keep his cover that he's a doctor and not trying to smuggle these state secrets out of Mexico. So finally he does make it to Oaxaca. And at Oaxaca, he stumbles upon a cactus garden with cochineal on his way to look for some vanilla. And so he hops off his mule and he's super excited. And so he tries to find the owner. He finds him. He goes back to the garden at 3 in the morning the next day to pay for some of these, some cuttings. And this is a very shut up and take my money moment because he overpays for these cactus pads. He basically is giving the owner however much money the guy wants. He fills 2 baskets full of cactus pads with cochineal on it. So by that time, he's great, I got the thing I'm looking for, so he heads out of Oaxaca. And when he heads out of Oaxaca, he hires a lot of horses at this point and gets crates to hold the cactus. But as he's going, he's also collecting tons of plant samples at this point, thistles, tubers, roots, because after all, he's actually a botanist. He's a scientist. And so he's stuffing all this plant samples into the boxes. And along the way back to Oaxaca, he's constantly checking on his boxes of plants, kind of like how contestants do on the Great British Bake Off, when they're checking for their cakes to rise. So he does run into 2 Spanish customs officers, and they force him to open these boxes. Yeah, So he does tell them that he's like, hey, I'm a doctor, and all these things are like herbal medicine stuff. And one of the Spanish guards recognizes the cochineal in the boxes and asks him, like, what are you doing with cochineal? And Meneville was like, oh, I'm a doctor. This is for gout ointment. Science. And the guard officer was like, okay, cool, and like lets him go. And so he does end up making it to Veracruz and like leaves on a ship on the way back to San Domingue. Ship! So on the ship though, yeah. So he's on this ship for over a month because of really bad weather. They keep getting blown off course. And during this time, as the cactus are in the boxes without sunlight, they're dying. Every single week, he has to pull multiple cactus pads off out of the box and like yeet them into the ocean because they're dead. And so he's going and he's like really questioning whether or not he can actually make it back to San Domingue with anything alive. But he does. September 1777, he makes it to San Domingue. And he actually does go to Port-au-Prince, and he does establish like an actual cochineal farm where he's able to transplant the cactus and start a small colony of cochineal. But he dies at 41 years old, basically 2 years after his expedition. He does not become the fabulously wealthy Carmine Baron that he was like trying to be. Don't feel too bad for him. He does get the title of like King's Botanist and like gets a stipend for 2 years. But even if he didn't die young, the demand for carmine would drop. So Mexico gains independence from Spain in 1821, effectively ending the Spanish monopoly on cochineal. Another thing, too, is that there are developments in a synthetic pigment called alizarin crimson, which is this color. And so artists start switching to this color because it is, one, cheaper than carmine, and two, not fugitive. And fugitive in art means that when your paint is exposed to light, it starts to fade. And a great example of that is from this painting. It's Van Gogh's The Bedroom. And if you look at the floorboards, it's like a brown color. It's made from carmine, so it used to be more of this color. Here's like a close-up of what it is now. So carmine does have modern uses. These are little bugs here. Here's a list of what it's called in modern food dye. So if anyone has nerds or answered questions correctly, this is your prize. Yes, it does have carmine in it. Yeah. Also, for later, I'm going to put these two swatches on a table and some actual cochineal on a table for you to look at. So, I want to raise a toast. Not to Meneville, because like was a snob and kind of racist. But I want to raise a toast specifically to the modern cochineal farmer, because without them, we would no longer have access to this perfect red.